Where do you guys live? Chicago. Yeah. What's up?
Did you know the poem? Chicago boy.
I went to Oh, yeah. It's probably changed a lot. I hear. It's not like
Okay. Cheryl. Okay.
It's still a college.
Yeah. What's nice to
I know all the city fathers are still complaining about taxes.
I don't care which taxes. I didn't know this. What do you mean? They support the university?
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm getting...
Well, why you support the university?
Yeah,
I doubt it.
Outside,
So what do you do about that?
okay, he's like, get out.
Wait, by the way, you're allowed to come on. Then like just have the map. Sit down. Like here.
Crawls down.
Wait, no, it has the map.
There's a house on the right side.
Sinks down
Okay, my turn.
We're going to ask everyone to please take their seats. Then we're going to ask anyone who has a cell phone, please make sure it's turned off or in silence, please. Services are about to begin.
So we're all gathered here today as special family and friends. We're gathered also remotely, through the help of the camera. So the family very much acknowledges, all of the people who couldn't be here, but are here in a special way, through this technology. We're all gathered to say goodbye, to say thank you, to say we love you to a very dear person. A person who lived her life doing lots of things for lots of people. To have the goal of changing the world, making a difference, one small thing at a time. And a person who loved her family so much, her children, her husbands, her siblings, her parents, her family, her friends, were so dear to her. And all the people who were dear to her, she did so much, and she gave them so much, and she left them so much. And so a funeral service is not meant to be an encyclopedia of a person's life. And certainly in Joyce's case, we can only touch upon the highlights of the great things that she did. But each and every one of us in this room is so blessed to have had her for as long as we had, and to grow from her, learn from her. And we all could stand up here and be the rabbi and give a nice long eulogy. So we're gonna do this together, as hard as it will be. She will hear us. She knows that she's here with us. Her soul, her presence is here. She'll hear these words, and it will make her feel like, all the hard work was worth it. I really lived a good life, and I did what I wanted to do, and they noticed me along the way. And we also hope that the words will be comforting and consoling, for our hearts, that feel a little bit sad, a little bit broken from the loss of such a dear person. So we start with a selection from the Psalms. We read the familiar Psalm 23. Mizra LeDavid, Adonai roi lo eksar. Bina yisteshech, yarbitzeni, al memenuchos, yenachleni. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni, v'maglei tzedek, laman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit al maves, lo yirara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Tarach lefanai shulchan neged sarai. Tishante v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya. Achtov v'chesed yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai. V'shavti v'beis adonai, la'orech yamim. A Psalm of David. God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush meadows he lays me down. Beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of justice for his name's sake. Though I walk in the valley overshadowed by death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in view of my torments. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long days. It's also our custom to recite what is called the Woman of Valor. It's actually a selection from the Proverbs, and it's common in some families where on Friday night you have the Shabbos table, and the wife especially and the mother has done so much hard work to make it possible to have the family gathering, and before you indulge in the good food, you sing to her a song about how special she is. Your mother, your wife, the Woman of Valor, and it's also the custom to say it at a funeral of a very righteous woman. So we'll say it as follows in Hebrew and English. Eish is chayil miyimsa, v'rachok mipnini michra, batach balev bala, v'shalal yoiksar. Gamalsu tov v'lora, kol yemei chayecha, daishet semru fishtim, v'tas bechapetz kapecha. Haise kinio socher, mimerchak tavi lachma, betakam be'od laila, b'titin teref, levesa l'choik narusecha. Zamama sadeh v'tikachechu, mipri kapecha natu karim. It's actually quite a long thing, and I think Joyce wouldn't want me to read the whole thing. So I'm going to stop there in the Hebrew, and I will continue in the English. An accomplished woman who can find far beyond pearls is her value. Her husband's heart relies on her, and he shall lack no fortune. She repays his good, but never his harm, all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She arises while it is nighttime, and gives food to her household, and a ration to her maidens. She envisions a field and buys it. From the fruit of her handiwork, she plants a vineyard. With strength she girds her loins and invigorates her arms. She discerns her enterprise is good. Her lamp is not snuffed out by the night. Her hand she stretches out to the distaff, and her palms support the spindle. She spreads out her palm to the poor, and extends her hands to the destitute. She makes a cloak to sell, and delivers a belt to the peddler. Strength and majesty are her raiment. She joyfully awaits the last day. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and a lesson of kindness is on her tongue. She anticipates the ways of her household, and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her. Her husband, he lauds her. Many daughters have amassed achievement, but you have surpassed them all. False is grace, and vain is beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her hands, and let her be praised in the gates by her very own deeds. So I wanted to share with you a few words, about the life that Joyce led. And under easier circumstances, you'd gather with the family, and they'd have a 3 or 4 hour supper with you and tell you all the stories about Mom and all the great things she did. But obviously now is a difficult time to speak, so if I may, share some of the things I learned about Joyce through talking to her beautiful family, who are her fans and her storytellers, and presented to me so beautifully, the special accomplishments and who she is as a person. So Joyce G. Gordon was born in Shaker Heights, not just the city, but in particular she was born in her household home in her mother's bed, to her parents, Norman and Lillian, and also having a brother, Norman Jr., of blessed memory. Her Hebrew name was Simcha, which means joy and happiness, which was certainly a clue of what to come, of her personality. She attended Shaker Heights schools all the way through. She loved to do many things. She loved art, and she loved to ride horses, which was something she loved to do throughout her life. She graduated high school, and she went on to the Lindenwood College for Women, as it's called, which is located in St. Charles, Missouri. It was a liberal arts school, but it was a sort of a finishing school for women, and Joyce didn't need a lot of finishing. She already had an excellent sense of elegance and manner about her, but maybe in some way it helped to get her that last drop to have a nice husband, come along the way. And so it worked out that at that time she met a young Leonard Wolfberg, who himself was in school nearby in Raleigh, Missouri. And they married, and together they had beautiful children, but they didn't have the easiest time, in their years together. Joyce tried her best, to keep up as much as she could, to keep the family strong, to do all she could, but it wasn't so simple. And after about 20 years, they had to refocus, and they got divorced. But throughout all the years, of being married, Joyce had a singular focus, which was to make her family, her kids, so strong and so great and so special. She wanted to inculcate them with true value, a true sense of what is right and wrong, and she wanted them to feel like they could do more and more and more than they ever thought they could do. They could raise the bar of what they could accomplish, because she told them and she showed them that they could, and that all of her children were unique and special, and they all had a special gift that they were given and had to take on and had to improve upon. But one of her things that she wanted to convey to her children the most, based on her own life and challenges, was that the most critical thing you can do is to be independent. Is that you have to create for yourself the tools to make your own road, to pave your own way. Yes, you should obviously, connect with people, you should build, you should make a team, you'd have a lovely spouse, but you have to be prepared that if no one else in life is going to do it for you, you have to know how to do it yourself. And that she was very, very adamant about. It was critical for the kids to go to college. I don't know if you had a Harvard University sticker in your crib, but she probably told everyone that you have to go to college. It wasn't an option. It wasn't the fact that you were going to get a degree. It's how many degrees, perhaps, that you would get. And in fact, the kids shared memories. It was not only her pushing them to get the degrees, but she herself was always studying and improving herself and attending courses. And who would get the degree first? And she certainly got it. And she ended up, ultimately getting her degree in psychology at Case Western University. And even though she was born into a home where she had everything that she needed, that she was very comfortable, she didn't use that to say, well, I'm going to do my life. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to be in my corner. But no, it was the opposite. She cared so deeply for the world. And her passion was for social activism. The world could be a better place if I work on it, if I make it a better place. And as simple as that. And she would often tell the kids that you guys have to volunteer. You have to do things. You have to change the world. And in fact, maybe somehow the expression that was in common was, you should give back. Right? And she didn't like that expression, I think, because she just said, you should just give. Right? You're not giving back, you're just giving. No questions asked. As straight as that. And she certainly gave a lot to the world. I don't know where to start, but there's one word, which is bellflower, which means a whole lot. As we know, she became the president of the NCJW. And one of her crowning achievements was the creation of this group called the Bellflower Center for Prevention of Child Abuse. And it had so many subdivisions that I had to write them all down, and I don't think I can name them all, but basically it dealt with all aspects of children's lives in the context of abuse. It helped parents themselves who were abused as children to be better parents. It helped children who were abused. It helped raise the awareness for professionals who worked with abused children. And they even had a 24-hour telephone hotline to help the parents who didn't know what to do, and it helped the children who themselves were in a difficult situation. The organization created Child Abuse Prevention Month in April and made an amazing accomplishment through volunteers, lay people, professionals, and all kinds of things. And obviously today there's a great legacy in this program in so many different forms. And also I was told that around the time that she was president, it was the war in Israel in 1967, and she raised incredible amounts of money. And the amount of money that she raised would be equivalent to millions of dollars today in today's money. And she sent all that money to Israel to help with so many different things. And in fact, I think I heard, that she not only raised the money, but she gave up a lot of the budget of NCJW, which was, not an easy thing to do or to say. But she said, no, this year the money's going to Israel. That's who needs it the most. So she did this because she wanted to change the world, and she had a very strong identity as a Jewish person, and a very strong sense of obligation to her community and to the people of Israel. So when she wasn't changing the world, she had spare time, believe it or not. So she spent that time doing a lot of things that she enjoyed, mainly people and family, raising her children. She loved art very much. She favored many different mediums. I don't know what the word is. Mediums? Media? Oh, medium. Okay. All right. I'll let you guys figure that after. She loves oils and pastels and drawing figures and clay sculptures, all kinds of things. And she was the kind of person, she was always growing, and she was always taking classes and trying to be into the latest. And it was at those classes that she was attending that a lot of good things happened, including meeting another person who was very important in her life, whose name was Murray Gordon. She became the kid's stepfather, and the kids really loved him like a father, and the two of them had a great time. So along the way, she also met Dr. Spock at Tri-C, and she gave him a few tips, which didn't make it into the book, perhaps, but maybe she set him straight on a few paths. I don't know. But anyways, together with Murray, they had a really busy life. They did something called Elder Hostel, which I've heard about, and today's apparently called the Rhodes Scholar. They send those big catalogs out, right, of all the cool places you could go. And they ticked off a lot of those places in the catalogs. She traveled to Asia, to Russia, to Morocco. They did stay in nice places, but they were not scared to go into whole new worlds and countries that your average person didn't go to. And one of the best things that they did, together, was they had a home in the country. So in Russell Township, they had 3 acres of wooded land, and she just loved sitting there, enjoying the birds, enjoying the tranquility, being connected with nature. But, amidst her busy life, one of her most important things, or the most important thing, was the unique relationship she had with her children and her grandchildren and her family in general. And one of the things that her family said consistently was that she had a different, unique relationship with each of you. Right? In some families, there's only so much of me to go around, so I'm going to be a template grandpa, template dad. I'm going to be more or less the same to everyone in my family. And that's not so bad, but she wasn't like that. She had a unique love, passion, interest, style with each and every one of the people in her family, and it made the family feel so blessed, so connected to her, so special. because it wasn't just this is grandma, this is my grandma, which is really an amazing thing. But one of the funny things was that when she was with you in your one-on-one time, she would quell about the other grandkids too, and one of her favorite things would be to get a little info. They call it hak in Yiddish, a little hak on someone, what they're up to, and then she would have the news feed given to the other grandchild and say, what someone's doing, and it was her way of bragging, but it was also a way of connecting, her family, as one entity. So I understand you guys gave a lot of nachas to her and gave her a lot of things to brag about. One of the funny things, I'm not supposed to talk for too long, but I heard the term grand cat and grand dog. I was a little confused by this term at first, and I thought at first that she was related to someone's animals, but it didn't make sense. But I came to learn that when she loved you and you had a pet and you were her grandchild, it became her grand cat and grand dog, which is a new usage of an English word that didn't exist before, which is pretty cool. So whatever. So the point is the special relationship, and in fact, just as an example, Cheryl said that the two of them just loved art, and they would go to Philadelphia to see art. They would go to art things, and they would do art together. And she had with each and every one of the people in her family the thing that she did with them that she loved so much. But after all this one-on-one time, it would have to stop because of the grand event. Right? There was a certain day in Thanksgiving, which was her day, right? And the family went on and on about these massive Thanksgiving parties, or I don't know what you call them, blowouts, or I think that it wasn't my word, but that was a family word. But just a description of an event that is so huge that it's expansive, and that it's an event that people would come to from all over the world, and that people would come from Israel and from Italy, and it didn't matter if you were busy at work, you had to come. And that eventually this event became so big that it could no longer be hosted by the family homes, and the embassy suites had to be the destination for the family Thanksgiving get-together. So that was a sign of great success, and it's pretty amazing. And obviously that was her day, to see her family in front of her and to be so happy and to be so pleased. And lastly, I think the true sign of a person who has inner peace and has the strength that she has is just how she dealt with her final years and her final days. It's not easy to talk about it, but I think one of the reasons she did talk about it to her friends was that she felt that maybe in our society we're a little too scared about these things. We worry too much about them. But if anything, she wished to convey that it's not easy, but you can do it. You can handle dealing with the difficult idea that we don't live forever. And so, she took her last days, her last years, living in Deer Creek, living in Wiggins, and she made the most of it. And she just loved life over there. And firstly, she loved her friends. There's 3 friends over here, Art and the ladies, and she just loved her relationships and her friends at Wiggins. I'm not going to call it Deer Creek. Maybe it's more like Wiggins. It feels more like Wiggins. And she did the trivia, the bingo, the Jeopardy, and the happy hour. And that's actually why today we're not having a traditional happy hour. We're having a traditional shiva. So even though the rabbi is the Orthodox rabbi, and we try to keep the traditions, the family said no, we're not having a sad shiva. We're having a happy hour. So there will be a happy hour celebrated after later today. Which is something that Joyce would have wanted. For us to not be too sad. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you so much to her beautiful family. I think one of the reasons why we all got to know Joyce was because you made it so easy. You guys shared her with us. And you guys helped make her famous and to make her so special. And I think that she could not have done all the great things that she did without the support and love of her family and the fact that you loved her and believe in her. And in a time where the world kind of thinks like, everything is too complicated now. We can't make a difference. People are so strange these days. No one listens. Everyone's just on their phone. I think someone like Joyce can tell you, no, the world can benefit from people who want to make a difference. You can try. You can make changes. You can make the world a better place. Just do what Joyce did. So we pray together that her memory should be for a blessing, and we'll truly miss her. But her strength, her courage, her getting things done is in our kishkas, especially if you're genetically related to her. It's in you, and you just have to pull it out. And every time you do something good, she certainly looks down upon you with great pride and joy and saying, "I knew you could do it, and do this one for me." So I probably spoke too long, even though I tried to speak quickly, because I didn't want to dishonor what Joyce wanted. But I'm going to now call upon her daughter, Leslie, to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie. I'm Joyce's eldest. I want to thank you all for coming here today. I'd also like to acknowledge people who are not able to come because of distance and time. And I'm going to read this because there's a number of them. First, Mom's youngest daughter, Debbie, could not be here today, but I'm told that she is watching us right now. In addition, middle daughter, Pam's husband couldn't be here. His name's Axel. His oldest grandchild, Brian, and his family, that's Casey, Ivy, and Naomi, they could not be here today, but they're also watching. And granddaughter Katie's family, Gordon, husband Gordon, and daughter Astrid could not be here. The 4 stepchildren, who she's very close to, they're just like her real children, Karen, Adrian, Carrie, and Melissa, and their families. And all her loving nieces, nephew, and others who knew her as Aunt Joyce. They all contacted me over the last few days saying they wish they could be here. As was said, Mom was the matriarch of our large family. She was the glue that held us together. And in her final days, she asked each of us to stay close to each other. That was her most fervent wish, and a wish we intend to keep. Now I'd just like to talk directly to the great-grandchildren, because what are we, 4 generations? Kids. We've got 2 of them here. We've got 2 others watching, and 1 other who will probably be watching this later when she gets a little older and can understand what we're saying. I want you to know that Nana loved you very much and was so proud of each of you. She delighted in telling her friends all about you, and she kept your photos and your paintings right next to her bed. Most people never get to know their great-grandparents. You are very lucky. And I hope that someday you will tell your own children and your own grandchildren about Nana. By keeping her memory alive, she will always be alive in our hearts.
Thank you so much. Just some brief announcements. So we are going to be finishing the service here in the chapel. And the custom is that we will have some pallbearers, and the pallbearers will come forward, and they will help to escort the casket with our beloved Joyce. The casket will go in front towards the back door, and then the family will file in behind the casket, and then, finally the people who were present in the auditorium, and they will kind of escort her out to the vehicles outside. We'll go in a procession. We'll all go in a special line of cars out to the cemetery, and the cemetery is Beit Olam Cemetery on the corner of Chagrin and Richmond, and there'll be guidance to help us to get there. And the graveside ceremony won't be so long, and then after the graveside ceremony, everyone's invited to Wiggins, Deer Creek, for a non-Shiva gathering, which will take place in the first floor, and it's going to go from approximately 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Okay, so at this moment now, we're going to please rise. And we're going to say the Kaddish here in the chapel, just while everyone is here. And if we have enough people, we'll recite it again at the graveside. So you guys have the cards. And the Kaddish is a very important thing. It's a thing because it's a mitzvah. But it's also the idea that when we are confronted with difficult times, hard things, instead of saying, God, why did you do it? We respond with faith and strength and courage and trust. So now we read together and say the Kaddish. Okay? Remain standing. We just grab our things, and we'll have the pallbearers come forward, and then we're going to ask them together.
We're going to ask the pallbearers to please come forward. Any other pallbearers? Then we'll ask the pallbearers to please go back to the chairs.